In this video, we're going to learn how you can teach math through play in the preschool years. Just a reminder that all of learning can be done in these early years without having to sit down at a table and do some structured learning time. The important goal is to create an atmosphere of fun and enjoyment and to ignite that passion for learning without creating a space that makes them feel stressed or nervous or overwhelmed by the idea of doing school. If you kill the love of learning in the early years, you're going to find it a lot harder to do learning as they get older. So in kindergarten and in that preschool period, much of the learning outcomes for math include learning numbers and counting up to the number 10, adding and subtracting to values to 10, skip counting by 2s, 5s, 10s, doing 3D and 2D shapes, sorting, classifying, patterning, measuring time, location, basic understanding of fractions. So this is kind of where the general summary of what a preschool year in math should cover. So let's talk first about manipulatives. So there's something called manipulatives in math, but those are hands-on tactile items that you can use to help develop concepts for learning math. There are awesome kits out there that you can buy that come pre-assembled so that you have some different little hands-on tools to use during your lessons. However, don't feel obligated to spend lots of money on a school-based manipulatives program, because you can actually use whatever you have in your house. For example, some of my favorite manipulatives are just things that are available. So for example, buttons, coins, Lego, noodles, bread tabs, and even my favorite, marshmallows, chocolate chips, or any other little treats or snacks, or even good healthy food like peas that you have lying around to be able to give your kids some incentive to practice and get hands-on with math. Uno allows for easy number recognition because it allows for numbers to be matched based on the one in the discard pile. After a time, they start to recognize specific numbers within the deck to be able to make a match. This also is a great opportunity for you to say you need to place the number 3 or the color red. After a while, they start to recognize the number 3 because it's the one that they've been using all the time to make the matches. You can also use regular hand cards too. Take out all of the extra ones, such as the Jack, Queen, and King, and even the Ace I would recommend, to have all the ones that have numerals and also have actual things on the cards. After time, if you play games with those cards, they start to recognize that 2 has 2 dots, for example. It will be easier as you go forward to be able to recognize numbers and value as well. After they start to recognize numerals and you're out and about in public, or like grocery store is a fantastic way to do this, you can do I spy the number 3, and your child has to look around the grocery store and find the number. It becomes a fun game to be able to play. If you want to do it a little bit more advanced than that, you can create a page where there's tally marks, and as they go through the store, they can check off how many times they find that specific number. How many times can they find the number 8 in the grocery store? You can also use your whiteboard and play games like Can You Copy Me? So you can help practice the numerals by drawing it and having them copy how you draw the numerals. Another really popular thing to do that I like in our family was noodle math. So what you do is at the top of the page or in a circle, you write a number, and they have to put their manipulative thing. So we used noodles in this situation. They would put 3 noodles within that column or in that circle, and they had to match whatever the number was that I wrote down on the page. Doing counting, so you can do things like how many steps. You can count up and down the stairs. Every single time you go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many steps are there between upstairs and downstairs? And let's check every time that we go up and down the stairs. Maybe it's changed today. You can also count how many steps from point A to point B. What if you take bigger steps? What if you take smaller steps? What if you run? How many steps would it be this time? Playing action games with numbers helps them to be able to put together the number with the value. The other thing you can do is the how many game. For example, if you do how many apples do I need? And so you can count fruits and vegetables. You can, when they're putting away cutlery, they can count how many that they have. So how many forks were in the dishwasher today? They can count the forks as they put them back in the drawer if you do it with them. You can also play a game we do called grocery list. And so I printed out some fruits and vegetables on paper, and I cut them out, and then I made a grocery list. So you need to find 3 apples and 2 bananas, and they have to put them in their shopping cart. So they look at the list, see how many they need, and then they go and they shop on these cards that I printed out with different fruits and vegetables. You can also just, in regular everyday life, can you get me 2 crayons? Can you get me two knives? Can you, whatever you're going to ask. You can also say, how many would you like? So when you're serving food, you can serve by saying, how many veggie sticks would you like? And then you can give your child that many veggie sticks. A fun game when you're cleaning up, and it also really helps you get cleaned up faster, is how many can you grab? So if things are everywhere, as they tend to do, how many Legos can you hold? I don't know how many you can fit in your hands, and then you can count them out as they've completed their task. Another really fun game is to use a 100 chart. So you print out 100 chart, it's in rows of 10, and it goes to 100. And then you get a dice. Dice are fantastic for learning about numbers. If you have this 100 chart and a dice and a marker, your child rolls a dice, and then they have to count how many dots are on the dice, and then they have to color in that many squares. If you have multiple kids who are playing along, you can make it a competition to see who can get to 100 first. Every single time they have a turn, they roll the dice, color in that many squares, and then they can see who can get to the end the fastest. Most board games that include a single dice are a great way for teaching kids about counting. So every time they roll the dice, they have to move their character or their icon a certain number of spaces. And that will usually between number 1 and 6 is a great way for them to learn that very early basic skill of counting. To do adding and subtracting, a simple, easy way to do that is food. I know that not everybody likes to use food as an incentive, but let's just say, for example, if a child has 5 chocolate chips and you eat one, they're going to remember that. If they now suddenly see they have 4, they're going to be able to remember that. Now keep in mind that if they are eating the food, they may ask for more. So for example, if you have, so here you go, have 5 chocolate chips. Now you've got 5 chocolate chips. What happens if you eat one? So they get to eat one and they see that they have 4. So 5 take away 1 is 4. Simple, easy, visual. Now they've got 4, they go, I'd like some more, please. So you give them 2 more. Now they can see that 4 chocolate chips plus 2 chocolate chips is 6 chocolate chips. And now they can understand a little bit more about math and adding based on that, and subtracting as well based on the amount of food that they eat. If you're not a big fan of food, there are other ways to do that. For example, games with 2 dice are a fantastic way to do number adding. Also, dominoes are fantastic as well. Any opportunity to include one set of numbers with another set of numbers to equal them up is a fantastic way to practice adding. Cards, for example, are another way. As I mentioned in the number one, it's fantastic as well. But what you can do is a game like Speed or War, where you flip over the cards together. Make sure you take out all the extras because you don't need any of the, jacks, queens, and kings to confuse things. But they flip over a card, and you each flip over a card, and then you have to see who can add up the totals the fastest. If you can add it up the fastest, you get to keep those cards. And then whoever gets the most cards at the end wins. Of course, you're going to be able to do mental math a lot faster than a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old, so you can, give them some grace. Flashcards, I will admit, I know that sometimes people are kind of about flashcards, but if you turn it into a game, can you do it? You don't have to drill them. It's not about drilling them with skills. It's about making it into a game. So let's see. Here's one. How can we figure it out? If you can get it, this is your card. And just see how many they can do, and try to make sure that you include things that they can do themselves successfully so they don't feel discouraged. For skip counting, an easy way to do it is hopscotch. Outside or on your floor, if you can use it with painter's tape, is to create a hopscotch board. But you can just make it so instead of hopping on every single square, they have to hop on every other square. And they have to call out the numbers as they jump. They can only jump on the square for skip counting. So if you're doing 2s, you're going to jump every 2, 4, 6, 8, and then off the end at 10. So a simple way to do that is just by making it an action game. You can also count by 2s by hopping up the stairs. I know that stairs are a little bit nervous with little guys, but if they go, they're only allowed to count every other step. So they can walk on each step. So they go up 1, but they only say 2, miss a step, 4, miss a step, 6. It becomes a habit to be able to say them every other number. If you're counting by 5s, it's a little bit more complicated, but don't forget our hands have 5 fingers. So you can put handprints around the house, and they have to, for example, up the stairs, all the way up the stairs, they can go 5, 10, 15. You can also do hand clapping games where you have 5 and they have 5, and you put it together and make 10. So these are ways that you can get hands on. So it's 5, and then they put it on and it's 10, and then you do the other hand, 15, and then put the other hand and it's 20. It becomes a hand-on action game along the way. Sorting and classification is super easy with little guys. You know what? Grab a bin of buttons, different sizes, shapes, colors, styles, anything you can do, especially if they've got holes in the middle and there are a different variety of holes. Then your child can go to town. I want you to say, sort these out for me. Just give them a small batch. They don't have to have a big bucket. Okay, just give them a small batch. Can you sort these out for me? And the kids will do it. And it's amazing. They can actually come up with reasons for why they have classified things a certain way. So, for example, my daughter loves to sort them out by color because she wants to pick all the pink and purple ones because she's been very determined those are her favorite colors. And so she likes to put all of them in order. She likes to put things in rainbow color order. So she does it that way. But you can also challenge them to come up with a new way to classify. So could you try to sort these by the number of holes that are in them? What about size? Do you think we could do them by size? What about decorative fancy ones versus some plain ones? Give them some challenges and encourage them to kind of find new ways to sort and classify. Another fun thing to do is sorting socks. So if you happen to have a large collection of mismatched socks, or you've just done a large laundry load with lots of different kinds of socks, get your little one involved with you. Being able to figure out which socks match each other, and especially if they are similar but not exactly the same, then they can look to see all the different characteristics of a specific sock to be able to find its match. You can use anything for sorting. So even if it's just a jumbo collection of stuffed animals, you can do things like how many of these have 4 legs, how many of them have 2 legs, etc., etc. There's opportunities for sorting and classification in just about anything that you want to. For shapes, both 3D and 2D, a fun way to do it is to play I Spy Search. I Spy Shape Search. Let me try to say that again. You can go on a search hunt. So basically, I spy a square, and then your child has to find the item that is there. You don't have to just use I Spy for colors. There's lots and lots of ways that you can use I Spy for learning and practice and review. Going on scavenger hunts where you have a piece of paper with pages, with one side has a column that draws a picture of a triangle, and then the other space has a blank for them to be able to draw in something that they find. So if they're looking around, they find something with a triangle on it, they can draw a picture of whatever the item is. So it could be that they found a flag, so they can draw a triangle flag, for example. You can do squares, rectangles, whatever you would like to do. The other thing to do is search around your house. You can go on a scavenger hunt to see if you can find a cylinder or a cube or a circle. You can go all kinds of things, however you want to. Go on a search. Our house is filled with shapes and great opportunity for them to explore. As they're looking at things like 3D shapes, can talk to them about the shapes they see on the edges and the sides so that they can see how shapes connect together to make bigger shapes. Tangrams are fantastic. If you can find online lots of free printable tangrams and the patterns for them to try and make shapes. Aim for ones that are easy to use at first, especially with the little ones, because you don't want them to get frustrated and confused as they're trying to figure out how to turn this little mess of shapes into a picture. But tangrams are a lot of fun. Patterning is easy as well. All you need is some beads and some pipe cleaner, and then they can make a necklace or a bracelet, and they can pattern their little heart's content. So you want to encourage them to do things that create a pattern. So it might be blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, but see if you can get them what comes next, what comes next, what comes next along the way. You can also do action games for patterns as well, like hop, hop, clap, hop, hop, clap, and then get them to tell you what comes next after they've been repeating this lesson or activity for a while. Measuring, if you just give your child a measuring tape or a ruler and send them off into the world, guess what? They're going to measure. Kids love those little measuring sticks, and I'm not sure why, but they're naturally inclined to start measuring things the minute you give it to them. So give them challenges like, can you find me something that is 6 centimeters long? And so show them how to find 6 on their ruler, and then send them off and tell them to find one and come back and report to you. If you do baking offers a lot of opportunity for kids to do hands-on math every single day. They get familiar with fractions. They get to see how a cup can be divided into different sections, like half a cup or a third of a cup. They do counting with eggs. They do all kinds of things, and they also have sizes, so they see that things get bigger and they can see that things get smaller. So that's a good way to do measurements as well. If you really want to get excited, I love dramatic play centers, and they're a lot of fun. So you can create a construction worker kind of center where they have tools and they have measuring, but they need to practice measuring their wood so they don't cut the wrong size, or they need to check the size of a room, or they need to do any kind of thing that involves measuring for construction. So it's kind of a fun way to add in some learning without having to feel like it's school. For money, you can also set up a shop like a grocery store or a bookstore or any kind of store where they have to actually hand money back and forth to each other. If you can find lots of really great tactile play money for kids, they come in that look really real sometimes, where they actually look like real money. And we found some on the floor and we thought, why the heck is there this quarter here? And it turns out that it's a plastic toy. But if you take some time, you can find some really great play money that your kids can use, or they come recognizing some of the Canadian coins and money that are available. When learning about time and clocks, you just make specific times be for specific things. For example, in our house, 10 a.m. tends to be snack time. So the kids have learned and conditioned themselves to look at the clock to find out if it's 10 o'clock yet. They've also learned that 12 o'clock is lunchtime, so they look for the 12 o'clock on the actual clock face. Give them a toy clock. There are some really great ones that you can do, but you can even find some at the dollar store. Give them a chance to do the various hands and play, and talk to them about what time is it and what would we do at that time. Those kinds of games and fun things. For location, talk about it all the time. Honestly, I'm on my bed, I'm in my bed, I'm beside my bed, but you can also do things like draw a box with chalk or make a tape box on the ground and play a game like get in the box, get behind the box, get beside the box, those kinds of things, so that it becomes an action game as well as some learning time as well. If you create a treasure map, you can also really work on location words such as behind, beside, those kinds of things, so that your child is looking for the location to be able to find the treasure at the end. Remember, the goal in math at these early years is to be able to include it into play all the time. You don't need to sit down at a table with a workbook. You can just do hands-on play and include math in everything that you do.